Pan Fear Fáilte Roibh Galéir, you're all immensely welcome to our second of our question and answer sessions here at Holiday World in the RDS Simmons Court. In the Simmons Court over the next 48 hours, or less than 48 hours, we're going to have 50,000 people passing through. What we try to do with this show is answer questions and give you real people who will answer real questions. In the age of the internet, where you can spend 30, 40 minutes finding out the most basic piece of information about travel, it's nice to actually get face-to-face with somebody, and we're doing as close as we can face-to-face with very, very esteemed, knowledgeable people from all over the world who've come to Dublin specifically for this event. This session is going to be about cruising, and especially about the premium and adventure end of the cruising business. One of the reasons is that we have Daniil here, and he's an expedition expert from Silverseas Cruises, who are exhibiting here at the hall. And we will also have Lorraine from Celebrity joining us on the stage in a little while. She's with answering another query at the stand as we speak. But if you have any question about cruising, and don't just feel limited to the two guests that we have on the stage here, if there's anything that you want to know about cruising in general, this is your show. I'm not going to be hogging the time. There are spotters and there are microphones here, so just put up your hand, throw out any question. I can guarantee you that between Daniil and Lorraine, we'll be able to answer almost every question. And if we can't resolve the issue right here, we'll find someone in the room, in the hall somewhere, who will answer the questions for you. The cruise is a very, very wide, disparate field. There are different types of cruises for almost every type of person. And in many ways, it's something that has grown from a standing start in the Irish market over the last 20, 30 years to a situation where we have maybe 14 or 15 different operators trying to selling different types of cruises. The expedition cruise is also something that's pretty new into the business. It's cruises would have been seen as for older people and a bit sleepy. These expedition cruising is quite the opposite. They tend to use smaller ships. They tend to use go to low destinations where that are associated with activities and adventures. And Daniil is going to tell us about the most exotic destination that I've ever cruised to, which is Antarctica. As well as the other expedition cruises that are in his repertoire. Daniil, talk us through what is expedition cruising for people who've never even thought about this, and what are the destinations that Silverseas would be bringing people?
Can I make it a little bit interactive with the audience? Can everyone who ever considered going to Antarctica or would consider going to Antarctica raise your hands? Anyone? All right, there's quite a few. What would stop you from going to Antarctica? Let's take money aside. Beside money, what would stop you going to Antarctica? Any fears? Yes, sir.
The acoustics are difficult from the stage, so
sure.
We probably can't do much interaction because it's very hard to hear. Yeah, sorry, Daniil. Yeah, we get it here.
Just the sea has been very rough.
Yeah, fantastic.
All right,
rough seas are the perception most people have of Antarctica, and that big sail down there. Yeah,
absolutely. Many people think that they may be not fit enough to go to Antarctica because it sounds so scary and challenging expedition. Luckily, we live in a world where these days you can travel anywhere: Arctic, Antarctica, Papua New Guinea, without sacrificing your comforts, without literally putting yourself through tremendous strain. And Antarctica is one of these destinations. 10 years ago, before introduction of luxury expeditions, there was only one way to go to Antarctica, mostly on the Russian icebreakers in very basic conditions, with bunk beds and bad food, the vessels without stabilizers and a rough Drake passage. These days, few companies offer trips to Antarctica, and Silverseas Expeditions is one of those. 8 years ago, when we started Silverseas expeditions, our owner came up with an idea to combine expedition and destinations such as Antarctica with luxury, which was always a signature of Silverseas cruises, as you know. And we were taken aback of how much demand is there for trips to polar regions, to seemingly harsh environments in luxury. And our voyages to Arctic and Antarctica sold out about year and a half in advance. That's the reason why we added yet another expedition ship at the end of 2017 to our fleet. And I hope over the next 20 minutes or so, I'll try to break your fears about the trips to polar regions. First of all, people always ask how fit you need to be to go to Antarctica. I always have a standard answer. If you can walk 10 steps up, 10 steps down, holding on to the railings, you are fit to go to Antarctica with Silverseas expeditions and with most of expedition cruise lines.
Now, do you need a medical certification before you go? How rigorous is that? You won't let people cruise unless they have a certificate from their doctor. Is that fair to say?
Not necessarily.
Okay, right. I know I was asked for mine when welcome Lorraine Quinn from Celebrity Cruises. I was asked. I know in my Herty-Rutan. I'm sorry, I went with a rival. My apologies. I went with a rival cruise line. Yes. But I did have to get a medical certification, because the thing about Antarctica is you're miles and miles and miles from any medical help if anything goes wrong. So people with heart conditions and things like that, is there a...
So obviously, of course, the people with specific conditions, medical conditions, they would have to submit that information to the company well in advance and maybe get a letter from the doctor. So we are prepared for your medical emergency on board. But of course, operating in such a remote area, so we have contingency plans such as helicopter evacuation if needed.
Yes.
In case of real medical emergency.
How long does it take to sail down? You have to get to Ushuaia in Argentina.
Yes.
And then how long does it take to sail down?
Well, it takes approximately 1.5 days to get through Drake Passage, and then you're down there on the Antarctic Peninsula, the place which we call Banana Belt of Antarctica, Antarctic Peninsula. It's the warmest part. There's a bit of interference. It's the warmest part of Antarctica and the most abundant when it comes to wildlife and bird life. So that's where we operate, an Antarctic Peninsula.
And what's to see there?
What's to see there? Wow, there's a lot to see there. First of all, amazing scenery. Everywhere you go, you're surrounded by massive icebergs, glaciers, high mountains, but also penguins. If you have a phobia of penguins, if you dislike penguins for any reason, Antarctica is not your destination. There is no escape from them in Antarctica. It is...
what's called?
Yeah. It is fantastic destination for whale watching. As you may know, the whales give birth to their young in the tropical waters, and then they travel towards polar regions to Antarctica to feed there with their young in the waters we are very rich with krill. So anyway, January, February, and beginning of March is the best time for whale watching in Antarctica.
And that's summer down there, so you've this amazing
absolutely.
daylight.
Absolutely. That's a top summer there. All wildlife is there, seals, whales, penguins. Penguins give birth to their chicks and raise their young there. But of course there are research stations that we visit.
Yeah.
Chilean, Argentinian research stations always stop at Port Locroix, which is British research station. There's a lot to see in June Antarctica.
I do remember coming back to Dublin in December from my Antarctic on a sugar high. There's no other word for it, because you come from broad daylight through to the 24 hours and you come back to Dublin into the darkness of December. It's quite a big letdown. One of the great abiding memories that Daniel is talking about this amazing scenery. There are no inhabitants in Antarctica. It's the only continent with no native population. So it's a scenery and a wildlife trip that you take. But what my abiding memory is how a leopard seal suddenly emerged into the bay of one of the stops. I may have been Wrong Island or somewhere like that where we were stopped. And as soon as the leopard seal entered the water, all the penguins, as if someone had blown a whistle, jumped out of the water. It was like one of the most amazing things I've seen in my life. Daniil, what is your price point? This is you're selling a luxury product to the most exotic location in the world.
Sure.
So what price are we coming in at?
Well, for a 10-day voyage to Antarctica, we would say it's a rough estimate €1,000 per person per night. So
What's causing the fee?
10-day voyage to Antarctica will cost €10,000 per person, so €20,000 per couple. And of course, it depends on what level of accommodation you want to have on board.
Right. So it's 20,000 really is what you're talking about. Have you got discounted? Is there a sort of a 4-day sale where you can sell it, where you can buy it cheaper?
We do. Arctic and Antarctica, it's quite difficult to get discounts, though we do if we see voyages are not full at the last moment. But usually, those are the top-selling destinations.
Right.
Yes.
I'm going to bring Lorraine in here now. You've got Celebrity Cruises are winners of the luxury and the ultra luxury award at Irish Travel Industry Awards over the many, many years. What's the difference between a luxury cruise and the cruise that we are all very familiar with, which people have been going on from Ireland for years? And what's the difference, and is it worth actually upgrading to Celebrity?
Well, the Irish public have grown to love cruising, and what they love most about it is that the destination changes every day. You unpack once and the destination changes each day. So what has changed over the last number of years is not only is cruising being popular, but the standard of the cruise ships and the standards you get on board have become higher and higher and higher. And we represent some fantastic companies that go to fantastic places in the world. And not only this, they've become more focused on the destination. So in the past, it was kind of go in the morning and come out in early afternoon, and it was sometimes could be quite rushed. And we've spent a lot of time in asking our customers where they want to go and how long they want to stay there. So now we're going into a lot of destinations over 2 days and over 3 days. So for instance, in St. Petersburg, we go in for 2 nights. So you have got a full 3 days to enjoy fabulous cities like St. Petersburg. When there's big festivals on in Rio de Janeiro, when the Mardi Gras is on in New Orleans, when the Cannes Film Festival's on, when the British Open is on. So no matter what your loves are of life, you'll enjoy going into these destinations where money can't buy tickets to enjoy these festivals and these destinations for 1, 2 and 3 days. So I would say the differences are that the standard on board, the space to guest ratio has got better, the facilities on board the ships have got better, the service has got better, and also the destination enrichment has got better. And also we're getting a lot...
That's very, very interesting, because getting to a big event, one thing that happened when we had France 2016 discussed that the hotel prices all shoot up. So you're effectively parking a hotel in a city for 2-3 days at peak period when hotels can't be had.
That's right, yes. So that's what people love, because you can't get hotels in Rio de Janeiro, you can't get hotels when these big events are on. So we're like a floating hotel. So not only do you get there in style, and also in a lot of one of the things about cruising as well is we're going to destinations can be quite difficult on land. So if you're going to India, if you're going to Japan, if you're going to where there's language and there's currencies and there's all different elements, it's hard to do by land. The Norwegian fjords, Alaska, and what's beautiful is that you can go on these cruise ships. So you're being transported to see these beautiful places in the world. Some of them Antarctica. That's just not possible to do any other way. So it's evolving all the time. We're listening to what customers want, and it's very exciting. It's evolving all the time. So cruising, if you haven't enjoyed it, it's kind of a fantastic way to see the world.
Okay, the celebrity ships that you're representing here, where are they? How many do you have in the different cruise regions? I think you've got the Galapagos as one of your smaller ships as well.
That's right. Yeah, we've 9 kind of the nice big kind of the big vessels, ranging from 90,000 tons.
2,500 passengers. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, they take just over 2,000 and they range. And I mentioned about the space to guest ratio and lots of space on board the ships and lots of facilities. But we have a small little baby ship that just takes 100 guests, and it goes out to the Galapagos Islands, and we have our own Unisico guide on board the ship. So I recently watched the David Attenborough program on, and I'd recommend you to watch it. It's just fascinating, the Charles Darwin story of the evolvement of Galapagos Islands. We do two separate itineraries, and you often visit 4 islands in one day.
And what price point is the Galapagos? Because it's very expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say on average, depending, we go all year round, but on average price, but a bit like it can book out well in advance, often 18 months in advance, but an average price between 5,000 and 8,000, but that includes your flights out to Quito in Ecuador, and you can cruise and stay and do your Machu Picchu experience and really enhance that whole part of the world. A real bucket list itinerary to do.
That's bucket list stuff. Now, you're going 20,000 for Antarctica, 8,000 for the Galapagos, but you've got very good value luxury cruising closer to home, and those bigger ships, the 2,500 capacity ones. What's out there at the moment? What's 2016 looking for?
We've some fantastic 10 and 11 night itineraries around the Mediterranean, and calling to some beautiful ports of call in Slovenia and Montenegro and Kotor and Montenegro, and some of the lovely ports along the Dalmatian coastline. So if you've already done a lot of Mediterranean countries, you've done a lot of Italy, you've done a lot of France and Spain, you might want to see some of these lovely islands in Greece and along that coastline as well. So we've got some prices. It's a nice product on board. We include your flights and your transfers and hotels, and in some cases as well. So we have some offers leading in. We're in a nice balcony stateroom with your drinks package all included from about $1,699 per person, and that's kind of early May dates as well. So pardon me, but we're just over here in stand B9. We've got lots of offers and brochures, and our team are there to help you with any inquiries that you have.
Daniel, my understanding of what happened with Antarctica was the millennium, 1999-2000. All this, people started thinking of bringing in the new year somewhere special, and Antarctica was the obvious place to go. And from, as you say, a couple of the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, and people bought the old Russian icebreakers and started running the first expeditions down from Ushuaia. But instead of the Russian icebreakers, the old ones, you were talking about they were uncomfortable, you started seeing proper, real cruise companies, of which Silverseas would be a very notable example, thinking about doing Antarctica. Is that what happened? And how many options are there for going down to Antarctica nowadays, apart from your own?
Yeah, well, we run 2 10-day itineraries to Antarctica. We run 2 types of voyages to Antarctica, 10 days and 18 days. Yes.
Yeah.
And it really depends how much you want to see. You can either go straight to Antarctic Peninsula, or you can include Falkland, South Georgia, and still go to Antarctica as well. But when it comes to the different travel conditions that we can experience now, Silverseas expeditions offer a real luxury trip to Antarctica with butler service on board, with relais chateau food, with a hot rock dining experience, jacuzzis on board. Imagine being out on deck, sitting in a warm jacuzzi, hot steaming jacuzzi in Antarctica, and seeing the icebergs passing by. So the luxury is there. As I mentioned, relais chateau food designed by French chefs. Everything is there. You don't have to suffer anymore to visit this place.
That's great. I'm hogging your time because this is your show, guys. If you have a question, put your hand up, and no need to confine it to the topics that we've been talking about. If you have a general question, we want to try and get all of those answered too, because we are very privileged. Lorraine won't like me saying this, but she virtually invented cruising out of Ireland, because in Lorraine's career in a previous cruise line, she actually she got people thinking cruise. The entire country wouldn't have been thinking about cruising without Lorraine and what she's done for the cruise industry in Ireland. I don't think anyone of the different cruise companies really appreciate that she's like a single woman pushed rowed the cruise ship into Ireland and got the industry boosted. We have a question here in the third row.
Would you recommend that for children? The cruise for children?
What was the question?
The
children.
Am I on? I'm on. Yes,
Family.
there's excellent facilities for children on board. They cater from children of all ages on board, and they've become very trendy in that they do relevant activities relevant to the age groups that's on board. So they put them into groups of 3 to 5 year olds, 7 to 9 year olds, and the activity is relevant to the age group that's on. So there's indoor activities, outdoor activities, dining, group babysitting. And one of the things that often parents like about going on a cruise is if they didn't want to go off at certain days, they might find, some young children might find some of the days long. The facilities for children on board stay open during the days that you're in port. So everybody gets a holiday, and so it's lots of activities on board for children, and learning as well as fun, children's menus, staterooms that take for children, so lots of options for families.
And it has to be said, I mean, we've got some cruise companies in the hall here that it's really worth going to and putting that question to. I know MSC Cruises have had free child place offers for some of their cruises, and there are cruise lines where it's a parent's dream. They take the children from you and look after them, so you have this terrific holiday where the children are not very far away and they have loads and loads and loads of activities. The other thing that's been happening is with the huge money investment gone into cruise ships, children's facilities is one of the things that they've identified. Most of the new Norwegian Escape, which launched just in October, has made 3 amazing water slides on it. So in some ways MSC Royal Caribbean has got virtual skydiving and surfing facilities on board, and in some ways what is floating around the Mediterranean and the Caribbean is a water park or a playground or a theme park, because there's so many children's and teenage facilities being installed. The Quantum of the Seas and Anthem of the Seas will have bumper cars as part of their facilities. So there are about 11 cruise lines here. Go and explore, and I would certainly stop at the MSC guys, because they seem to have been ones that targeted the family market, and that's without confusing the issue here, that's very different from the luxury that Lorraine and Daniel are talking about. It's the traditional standard cruise market where you're in a floating hotel and you call into a different city every day. You wake up in a different city every day. Question from the floor. Do we have somebody? I saw another hand somewhere. I'll go there. We are. Second and third row.
How can we know the extras that we have to pay? Because you have a price and then you have the extra things like tips, or that's why sometimes we say, and then the extra, how much is the extra thing that we have to pay?
I need help, Andrew, sir.
Okay.
What are the extra costs that you have to pay when you're on board?
Okay, I'm going to get Lorraine in on this. Extra costs.
Extra costs, yeah.
You get a cruise that is sold as it's all inclusive, because you get your bed, your food, but there are always something that comes around to bite you when you don't expect.
I would say fundamentally, and you're free to chip in as well, fundamentally your packages, your flights and your transfers, your hotel pre-cruise, and when you're on board, all of your food, all of your entertainment are all included, and some drinks, teas and coffees and juices with your meals. And then there's different packages then on top of that. At the moment, both of our companies are all inclusive, includes all of your drinks on top of that as well. And then I would say the 3 elements that are extra when you're on board a ship is, and we include all the gratuities as well, I hear just saying that. 3 elements I would say are extra are when you're getting off the ship at any stage, you're free to walk on off the ship and enjoy the calls that you're calling to, but there's also organised shore excursions, so you can take some of the organised excursions with the Celebrity Cruises or with Silverseas, or you can get on and off as you free and enjoy at your own expense. So that's one extra charge that can happen. The second is we've introduced some extra dining options on board, and there's a service charge for dining in some of those restaurants. That can be the second charge. And the third is often lots of shops on board and spas on board, so they're again recreational extras at your own dispense. So there's no hidden charge charges. It's all very transparent about what the extra charges are.
There is a hidden charge though, Lorraine, and that's an awful lot of cruise companies drop a gratuity or a daily service charge onto of $12, $14 a day. Is that standard across the industry, or is there ways around that?
Yes, it is. I didn't want to answer all of them. Yes, we do. All the cruise lines do offer look for gratuities to cover the main staff that will look after you during your cruise, which is usually your cabin steward, your waiter, your assistant waiter in the restaurant. And there's ease in that. The option is to prepay that before you go on your cruise, or you can pay it on board. So it's again discretionary. It kind of came with the tradition of cruising, and as we're an originally Norwegian brand, and in Celebrity's case a Greece brand, it kind of evolved with the kind of American culture. So it's not really our culture, but it's something that's just evolved with all the cruise lines. So it's just something that's very standard, like it or lump it.
And Daniel, it's all inclusive on your ships. It's a way it works that this may be a very crude analysis of it, but the more expensive the cruise, the luxury end of the cruise, they tend to be all inclusive. And as you get into the more bargain cruise, the extras start mounting up. It's a bit like flying with Ryanair versus flying business class on the A380 or with Emirates to Sydney. Everything's included if you're paying a high price to start with. Daniel, do you want to come in? Your cruises are all inclusive, I think, across the Silverseas range.
Yes, and what I would like to add also, just like Celebrity, we also all inclusive. All your meals, all your drinks, wine, champagne on board, it's all inclusive. But with Silversea Expeditions, we also include show program. So all your shore excursions with Silverseas Expeditions are included in your price as well.
Okay.
So when you see the price, it's truly all-inclusive, including shore excursions.
Okay. So the shore excursions are included, which is good news, because there are no buses waiting in Antarctica when you get off the cruise.
Yeah, it's not only Antarctica. We have 3 expedition vessels.
Okay.
That's
yes, of course. And Papua New Guinea, you mentioned. Yeah.
Papua New Guinea, Galapagos, Indian Ocean. There is so much on all of these destinations. Shore excursions
I passed over a question here in the front, but do you want to come in here? Yeah,
To get back to the point of service charges, I did go on a previous cruise, and it became it was unannounced about the service charges until we got on board. And basically, I don't see the logic. I don't see the logic of service charges being added on. They should be actually included in the price that you pay for it. I don't see the sense. And if you want to tip, that's your. But as I found at the cruise, you had to actually pay that service fees per person for each day. And I can't see why that has to be added on the cruise. Why doesn't it be on the brochure price?
Neither of the guests can say what I'm going to say, but the problem is that cruise lines get the passengers to pay the wages of the crew. The crew aren't actually paid very well. Almost all the wages they get are the gratuities that are coming. And as Lorraine said, it's maddening for European culture, but it's what Americans are used to. They're used to restaurants not paying their staff. They actually rely on you to tip the staff. So if you are on a cruise ship or in a restaurant in America, you're actually leaving the waiter unpaid unless you put on that gratuity. What some of the cruise companies have been doing is putting the service charge in the overall price. So instead of booking your week, you can actually have the service charge as part of that cost. I think people are happy with that. Wouldn't it be fair to say around the room, you don't mind paying the money, it's the unexpected element of it. That here you are, you've your lovely cruise, and here you are, this is an extra bill for you. That's why when you see people getting off the cruise ship at the end of the cruise, they're all grumpy. They really are. You see the grumpy faces coming back. Lorraine, do you want to come in with an observation?
Honestly, I would agree with you. And I think things are evolving and they're listening all the time. So I think that as more and more Europeans are travelling and voicing that, I think we will see some changes in that area. And I hope we do. I agree with you. I don't think that it should be representative of where you come from. So it's a tradition from America and it's accepted. So I agree.
I think in Silverseas the gratuities are included in the over.
Absolutely.
So if you sail with Daniel on one of his expeditions, you will not have a service charge. I missed a question here. Oh yeah, questioner here.
We have never done a cruise as yet. So I just
Shame on you.
I know. Just like to get some basic overview on the different standards of or conditions of the cabins. The different upgrades and that, and the basic cost difference between each one. Basically, obviously, you get what you pay for. So, if you were going on one for the first time, what would you be recommending?
Okay. Do you want to do an overview, or would I do the overview?
I don't mind.
Okay, right. Go on, in you go, Lorraine. Yeah, you know more.
I would say that it almost comes into four categories. I would say we call them interior staterooms, which are kind of almost say what it does on the tin. Ocean view, which has got your large window. A balcony stateroom, you've got sliding doors, and you can walk out and have breakfast, and I think you know that part. And then we go into deluxe staterooms. They kind of become bigger with more amenities, extra touches and butlers and all of those nice extras. And I would say first time cruising, it can depend on where you're going to, and where there's constantly scenery. Sometimes there's some destinations that it's not, you're in a port every day and you're cruising through the night, and you might kind of go, okay, is a balcony going to be very important to me there? 85% of the staterooms on board celebrity ships are high end, they're balcony and above, so our value is in balconies and above. So we've got better value on the balcony staterooms than we do, and because we don't have that many.
So the cheapest isn't always the best option.
Exactly.
And I see, I mean, a lot of the ship builds, I see them fewer than 10% of the new of the cabins on new builds are inside cabins. Inside cabin is really history. Is it about the ships, or is it about the itinerary? Because I've never figured this out, Lorraine.
It's a combination. It's a combination. I think it's not about it's about the mode of transport in this case. Sometimes it's not about the mode of transport, but in this case it is. So I think if you've got this amazing experience of travelling, being entertained, having really fantastic cuisine on board, some fantastic wines, meeting some fantastic people from all around the world, and then you wake up in some beautiful places. So it's a combination of both, I would say. So,
and the way it works is that you've got the size of ship is crucial. The very, very big ships, it's like stadium tourism. The Royal Caribbean ships that's launching, Harmony of the Seas is launching in May, has more than 5,400 passengers, plus 2,700 crew on it. So it's a big walk to events, and the theatre, huge theatre. The advantage of the big ship is the standard of what they could do entertainment-wise and food-wise. They will have Grease the musical on that ship. Now, if you go down a size to Lorraine's, you've got 2,500 or so. You get a slightly bigger cabins, and you also have that amazing standard of entertainment, because 2,500 is still optimum size. The bigger ships are the size of New Ross, floating around, in the middle of the Mediterranean. You go down a size again, and you end up with two different types of ship. You end up with Daniel ships. How many does your Antarctica take? It's
132 maximum.
132 people.
Ships, yeah.
And it's ultimate luxury, all-inclusive, amazing food, amazing bar, and the highest of standards. But no, you won't get Grease the musical or any of that stuff on 100. And there's Daniel and his competitors at that end, that's what they do. The other huge advantage, and Antarctica is relevant to this, is a ship of that size can go anywhere. It can go into any port, whereas the big ones are confined to about 20 or 30 ports where they actually can berth and get people, because you can't tender 5,400 people off. By the time you get them off to an island like Guernsey, the last people arriving would be meeting the first people getting back on again. The other thing at the bottom end, this is a really interesting one, it's very interesting in the Irish market, is the small old ships that the likes of a cruise line like Fred Olsen would have, which is very, very, they're not going to win the award, but they're quite basic, and the entertainment is sort of a cabaret, small-town cabaret act. But they are so good value that people love them. We used to have the Black Watch coming into do you remember those? Dublin, and picking up in Dublin. There's about 11 cruises leaving Ireland this year that you don't have to fly anywhere for, and they're the smaller and the older ships, and they're not, you don't see them on the TV ads, but they do what it says on the tin, and they're priced to match. There was some like €299 3-day mini cruises out of Dublin, operated by Fred Olsen, it's for anyone who wants a little taste of a cruise, it's a great way to go. But you don't get the surfing and the virtual skydiving and the bumper cars and those sort of ships. You do get a very interesting older clientele, and they're good fun, and people sit at dinner and share stories, and they're very interesting. They're always short of guys, aren't they? There are always too many women and too few fellas on it, and they pay people to dance, to ask people out to dance in the evening at the cabaret. There's about 3 or 4 paid dancers on the Fred Olsen ships. They're always really good fun. That's more or less the overview of what cruising works. But I asked Lorraine, is it about the ship or is it about the destination? And she said it's a combination of them both. The destination would be probably what also very important in deciding your first cruise. Do you want a city every day like you get in the Mediterranean, or do you want a beach every day you get in the Caribbean, or do you want glaciers and scenery like you get in Alaska, or do you want to get the Baltic or the fjord scenery, or the Baltic, which is a great way to go up into very diverse cultures, and you get into St. Petersburg. The only way of getting into Russia without a visa is to go in off a cruise ship. I think that's fair to say. Any more questions? We're running out of time. There's somebody here in the front row and somebody here over.
Right. The cruise then it docks at St. Petersburg. Is that a guided tour when you get to St. Petersburg? You spend 2 days in St. Petersburg.
It's about the celebrity St. Petersburg. You say the ship berths in St. Petersburg, so you get a 3-day experience in St. Petersburg.
That's right, yes. You can do that. And one of the other...
Did you have a guide with you in St. Petersburg?
Is it a guide? Are you guided through St. Petersburg?
Yeah, so we have our tours when you get to St. Petersburg, including a tour for the day, evening, and there's even an overnight excursion to Moscow actually. But one of the things, and I think you mentioned it yesterday as well, Owen, the things about St. Petersburg is you normally need you do need a Russian visa to go there, but if you're going on the excursions with the celebrity cruises, it includes an automatic visa for you because you're going with the tour. So that's one of the benefits of going on the organised tours with us. So yes, there's a vary of about 25 different types of tours that we do. So usually they're full days and often evening events, going to some of the lovely operas and all the events that evening as well. So yes, and it includes the visa.
And the lady here in the third row.
Thank you very much. 2 for the price of 1. Okay. First thing is, do you require special clothing going south? I mean, is the Gore-Tex good enough, or do you require something else? That's the first question. The second question is, going to the Antarctic, are lectures a feature of all the cruises going, or are there any cruises which do not include lectures?
Thank you so much. I think I heard most of the question. The first one was if we provide extra clothing. On every voyages to Arctic or Antarctica, or even Russian Far East and Alaska on the polar regions, we provide our guests with a warm insulated parkas, warm jackets that are specifically designed for these areas, and those you can take home. When you disembark the vessel, we provide waterproof backpacks and water bottles as well. Also, on the Silver Explorer, we would give you insulated rubber boots called bog boots, and those you will need to return at the end of the voyage. But at least you don't have to carry them with you to the vessel. And the second one about the lectures, which is fantastic, because the best thing about going on an expedition cruise, you get to learn so much. On every voyage, we would have 11 expedition staff members. That would include geologist, marine biologist, ornithologist, botanist, historian, anthropologist, depends on the destination. And these people will be with you in the field, next to you all the time, driving your Zodiac, and bringing to life everything that you can see around. So it's not only trips to take pictures, it's trips to learn about the region.
Yeah. The thing about the lectures, by the way, it's not like school. You don't get an exam at the end and you don't have to attend them. You said that you asked were there some without lectures. Jonathan Shackleton from Cavan is one of the guys who does the lectures. Not on Daniel's ship, but he does it on one of the other, with a Canadian company, I think it's Quark Expeditions. So the Shackleton family will have connections with some of the excursions, and Jonathan does lecture tours, obviously bringing up his own family heritage. The other thing that happened is very important. This is 2016. The great event that happened on Easter Sunday, 1916, according to Irish people, was the Easter Rebellion, but it's also the exact day that Ernest Shackleton made contact again in Georgia with the civilization, and so it's an unfortunate clash of anniversaries. But our Irish Antarctic heritage is really, really going to be celebrated this year, and it's very important to us with Tom Crean, Jonathan Shackleton, and all the others. Any last question here? We're running out of time, but I will extend it for as long as you all get your questions answered. Anybody, throw your hand in the air. We have spotters, and everybody happy. Daniil and Lorraine, you were terrific. Thank you. And you're a great audience, and I really enjoyed the session.
Thank you.